Welcome to episode 7 of the Trade Rewind. On this episode, we'll discuss how the Bucks traded up for a physically dominant, supposedly NBA-ready college star who was built for the paint and praised for his strength and size. Meanwhile, their trade partner, deep in a rebuild, took a gamble on a skinny 19-year-old with a funky shot who ended up becoming the best player in franchise history. Hope you enjoy.
We've got an NBA trade today. I think you're gonna like this one.
I'm excited.
The year is 1998. The season just ended. The Bucks are coming off a 34-46 season. They have no clear star for their franchise. They've been trying to get, over the hump and make the playoffs. Their coach, George Karl, at the time is known to prefer physical and defensive players, and they believe in this draft. They want someone who's NBA ready right now. Meanwhile, their trade partner, Dallas, is coming off a 20-62 record that season. They've missed the playoffs every year in the 90s. And so they're in a full rebuild mode. They're looking to take a swing and get someone who could maybe change their franchise. At the time, their GM was Don Nelson, who was new to this belief. He believed in positionless basketball and that shooting bigs were the future. He had an assistant/advisor at the time by the name of Horgel Schwinder.
Nice.
He'll come up again. Do you have any ideas? A Dallas big guy?
I mean, Dallas big in 1998, it's got to be Dirk.
Yeah, it is Dirk. And you'll see why I felt this trade was just so interesting.
That being said, I could not tell you who the Bucks got back.
By the way, even the Bucks couldn't tell you after a couple of years. Just a little background. At the time in 1998, EuroLeague players were viewed differently than they are now. There was a lot of question marks about the EuroLeague players. NBA scouts believed that they were soft, slow, and too finesse for the NBA. They believed that they would struggle with the physicality and with the style. There had only been a couple of European players who really had panned out so far. Among those are Arvydas Sabonis, DeMontis' father. He was an unbelievable player. And Tony Kukoc, champion with the Bulls. Another thing at the time, a 7-footer who shot threes, it was looked at as a bad thing, as a negative, a weakness. And it would, like, the attitude was like, why are you so far from the hoop? Get in the paint.
Right. Why would we want someone who could stretch the floor and give us better spacing?
Yes. All right. Well, who needs space?
There's no value.
Get in the weight room and beat him up in the paint.
Right. Just stand there.
Absolutely. So let's discuss the trade during the 6th pick, right? The Dallas is on the clock. They're like, we want Dirk, but we don't want to take him here, maybe for salary purposes, as well as just, he's not, maybe they feel we could take him later. We don't want to take him 6 when we could get him later.
They're like, we'll trade back, basically.
Right. We're going to trade back. And the Bucks also wanted to trade up because they wanted a win-now player. And they believed Robert Traylor was the win-now player. So they trade up to get Robert Traylor, and they give them the 9th pick, which is Dirk, and then the 19th pick, which was a man of the name of Pat Garrity, who, funnily enough, and maybe someday we'll get into this trade, he was a part of a big trade that ended up sending Steve Nash to the Mavs. And one of the picks that was involved in a trade that they sent to Phoenix became Sean Marion. So he was involved in a big trade as well.
So funny. And then Sean Marion comes, they all come back to the Mavs.
Right, they all come home eventually. So let's discuss Robert Traylor. So Robert Traylor was a dominant player in Michigan. He was a big boy. He was 6'8", 300 pounds.
Damn, sounds more like an offensive lineman.
Yes. He couldn't jump very much. Didn't move so well, but he occupied space. In the 90s, during the NCAA tournament, Michigan completely relied on him like a battering ram. They would dump the ball inside, and he would just bully people and lay it in. And then eventually teams would have to double and triple him, and then he would kick it out to the shooters.
Can you imagine today in the NBA? It's like, oh, what's the scouting report on this guy? He occupies space. You should probably draft him 6th overall. He can't do anything else, but he could stand there. People can't get around him.
And funny you say that. So I have Ranier, and this opposing assistant coach during that run said that guarding him was like trying to box out a refrigerator. So he averaged 16 and 10 his junior year and was consensus All-American and won the Big Ten Player of the Year.
It's a great draft day comp.
Yeah, he was a
Fridge.
fridge. He was a man amongst boys in college. Meanwhile, Dirk Nowitzki was an unknown. He was a skinny, tall kid from Wurzburg, Germany, and where he would practice in these empty gyms, not big crowds. He had a trainer or a coach by the name of Holger Geschwinder, which we mentioned earlier. He ends up becoming an assistant on the Mavs. Holger was not a traditional coach. He was actually a physicist. And instead of, running Dirk through the normal post drills and layup drills, he would teach him the geometry of shooting angles and footwork based on balance and torque. And that's where the one-legged, fadeaways became a thing in those empty gyms.
And it probably also explains why he had so much arc on his shot.
Absolutely, because it was all about angles.
Yeah. The higher it goes, the better likelihood it has going through the rim.
Right. And just to show you just like where the NBA was at this time, during an NBA pre-draft workout, famously one scout reportedly asked, why is this while Dirk was, taking off the dribble threes and turnaround one-legged shots, a couple of scouts looked at each other, not impressed, confused. And one scout said, why is a 7-footer shooting like a guard? Not as a compliment, as a negative.
Right. Who would want that?
Who would want a 7-footer who could train threes? Unbelievable. This is where the NBA was at the time. So how did Dirk get found? His moment was, at the Nike Hoop Summit in 1998. That was when he really became who he was and where he blew up on the national stage. He faced some top American prospects and scored 33, including, pull-up jumpers. And Don Nelson was in attendance. And instead of, where others saw a soft European, he saw a guy who was extremely skilled, who dominated while not physically dominant, dominated with skill. And a guy who had competitive fire and confidence, and someone who was a mismatch that the league just didn't understand yet.
Right.
Which is why this was so interesting to me, because this is just a trade. It just shows where the NBA's mindset at the time. I'm reading a couple of scout reports, just again to show how these players were looked at and how different it was, in the 90s compared to now. So Robert Tractor Trailer, that was his nickname, 21 years old, 6'8", 300 plus pounds, strengths, produced in college, NBA ready, physically dominant, and a guaranteed rebounder. Weaknesses, conditioning, defensive limitations, limited offensive skill set. Dirk Nowitzki, 19 years old, 7 feet, 220, 80 pounds less. So he was known as skinny.
Insane.
Strengths, elite shooting touch, very agile, and work ethic. Weaknesses, too soft, thin frame, not physically ready. Competition he had faced was questionable.
It's also funny because we forget that Dirk, at that time, right when he was getting drafted and his first however many years in the NBA, was an agile player. Because by the time we were watching him, he was a big, slow guy.
Well, I mean, when he beat the Heat in the finals, he was quick. He was still,
But like off the dribble?
Some of his last, yeah, absolutely. Some of his last memories of him, though, when he was like 40 and he could barely lift his feet and he had to like be dragged down the court. He definitely, by the end of his career, could not move a lick.
I remember when I watched him, just seeing him as a rookie, I was like, oh my God. Or his first couple years in the NBA, it's like, wow, like this guy, he reminds me of like a KD. Like,
yeah, I mean, his MVP season, he was unguardable. And you just couldn't do anything with him. He could turn around, shoot over you. He could rip through by you. He could post. He could shoot threes. He could dribble. There was nothing you could do with him.
And it's so funny that at the time they're like, yeah, this is bad. Because all these leagues, they're copycat leagues, right? And they're like, oh, you know what? We gotta, right, the Bucks are like, we just gotta fill this spot. This is what we need for our team. I'm sure they're modeling themselves off of some recent champion or whatever. But the teams that actually are good and the teams that win next, who's going to get the next championship? It's the teams that innovate.
Absolutely. It's all about innovation. And that's why this trade was so interesting to me, because this isn't a bad Bucks trade. And it is. But to me, it was a failure of NBA scouts and the way the NBA was like the way they looked at basketball at the time. And Don Nelson, he was open-minded enough to see something different and understand the potential there. That's what got him this trade. And he got, not only did he get a guy, he got Dirk and another piece for some guy who was out of the league in a couple of years. Well, actually, we'll go through it right now. Their careers. Robert Traylor played 2 seasons in Milwaukee, averaged 8 points and 6 rebounds. Had, continued with the conditioning issues, was traded, then bounced around the league. He was out of the NBA by 2004. So 6 years. Meanwhile, Dirk, 21 seasons, all with Dallas, 14-time All-Star, 2007 MVP, 2011 NBA champion against the Heat, and Finals MVP. He revolutionized the position of power forward and is, obviously one of the most loyal players ever, and the Mavericks probably all-time, best player. So just to and the fact that this trade happened was because Don Nelson saw that a guy that skilled is something that's amazing, not a weakness that he's staying away from the rim. It's a strength that he can do all these things that guards can do, and he's 7 feet tall.
Yeah. 2 quick notes. One, which we can't get into because it'll never end, but is there anything worse on LeBron's resume than him losing?
Oh, I don't know if there's anything worse than that finals. I mean, JJ Barea cooking him.
Just no excuse.
And also, I mean, his fourth quarter numbers in that finals, that was the finals that, if you're not a LeBron guy, you can always point to that finals and be like, he did not show up.
Yeah. I think we're both MJ is the GOAT guys, so we don't have to get too far into it. But the other thing that's super interesting about Dirk is it's not only that on the court he changed how people viewed things, he also off the court, right? Like he led this, this wave of European basketball players. It's okay. And for the Mavericks especially, he made the Mavericks the European center of the NBA. He brought tons of fans to them. He completely opened up that European fan base. All those guys are Mavs fans. And then that was like the Mavericks image was like, yeah, we love European basketball players here, which ultimately led to them drafting Luka. That was always the guy they wanted that entire draft.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you look at the Luka trade, it's deja vu all over again. Similar trade. Luka.
Better be careful when you say the Luka trade.
Well, that's true because this isn't the Luka trade, but a Luka trade to start his career is, right? It was question marks. He should have been number 1 overall, but he wasn't because there was question marks. Oh, unathletic. He's a different competition, blah, blah, blah. All of those were sheer nonsense. But they trade in a similar trade. They trade a pick that became, right, Trae Young. They traded Trae Young for Luka because they believed in a guy who, even though he's not the most athletic or fast, who is supremely talented and supremely skilled. And guys who can dominate on skill should be able to do that anywhere. Like the idea that like we're so worried about their vertical and all that is wild.
Right. It happens a lot with scouting, right? Where you just you overthink something, right? Like you overlook. I mean, we're talking about, I think on one of our last episodes, how like the 40-yard dash is so overvalued now. It's things like that. I mean, what was crazy to me is I remember at that time, before that season in the offseason, it was like, okay, Luka obviously is the consensus number 1 pick. Everyone agreed on it because he was something we had never seen before. He was a complete anomaly. Every single European player up until that point, as far as I know, was like not actually playing in the EuroLeague. If they were on a team in the EuroLeague, they were averaging something like 3 points a game.
Right.
The famous
so
one.
18-year-old, you're not getting a ton of minutes.
I mean, well, Kristaps did it. He was averaging like 2 points a game, and then he came in and looked very good for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, Dragan Bender, everyone was like, all right, next Kristaps, here we go. And they drafted him, and it was just a disaster. And Luka was the first one. He played for Real Madrid, one of, if not the best team. He won EuroLeague championships, I believe. And he was scoring like 20 points a game, 17, whatever it was. He was actually playing on these teams. How is it possible that a guy who, someone in college playing against other 18-year-olds, you would rank higher than a guy who's 16, 17 years old playing with 35-year-old men whose career is to play basketball? Many of them used to be in the league that the other guys in the draft class are they played in those leagues 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I mean, Luka's a special case because Luka even displayed some of his skill against NBA talent and NBA players because he played against the Thunder in the preseason as a
Right.
17-year-old and played really well against MVP Russell Westbrook, and he was handling himself. So it's unbelievable, and we see it time and time again. I mean, what's interesting about this one, the Dirk, it's because this story gets repeated over and over again over the next 25 years in the NBA, where like a great example, the number 1 overall pick, Greg Oden, who was number 2, Kevin Durant. Why did Greg Oden go first? Bigger, stronger, dominant paint presence. Kevin Durant, he's skinny, he's tall, but he's a little like, is he strong enough?
Right.
And
He's the best scorer we've ever seen in college basketball. But I don't know. He's skinny.
And I will say, Greg Oden's obviously a different story because it was injuries, and he was unbelievable. I mean, Greg Oden's a great story. He broke his right hand in college and started shooting for his lefty or something like that. Was making him. So, or the other way around, he broke his left wrist and was shooting righty. So, like, he was an amazing player. But it is interesting that we see over and over again the same theme of we're gonna take the NBA ready now guy, right? The physically ready now guy, which is in this case Robert Tractor Trailer. He's ready now. We need a guy who can play right now because he's physically developed, instead of the skilled guy who skill translates.
Right. And the Mavs were like, you know what? I think we're good. We'll wait. Rookie season, we'll take the 8 points. And in return, we'll get 17.5 his second season and 22 points a game his third season.
I mean, it was.
We'll take it. You know what? We're fine. We're fine waiting 2 years for 17 and 3 years for 22. And then a guy who over the next 11 years finishes top 12 in MVP votes all 11 years.
Yeah, I mean, this is widely known as one of the worst trades of all time. I didn't even know. I didn't know that Dirk. I thought the Mavs had drafted him.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of
They
did.
kind of did, but it's an interesting little twist that he was really drafted by the Bucks.
These draft day trades are always very interesting because it's someone calling their shot and it's someone else usually getting completely screwed.
And listen, I know this is not the time or place, but I'm gonna take this opportunity to say, NBA, fix your draft process. If a guy gets traded, you can make him wear the correct hat. It's ridiculous to see these guys wearing the wrong hat in their draft picture because technically the Sixers own the pick that they traded to the Blazers, so now he's wearing a Blazers hat. Even though like, what are we doing, NBA?
The league office
You're
hasn't
a
approved it.
billion-dollar league. Just let him wear the correct hat. It's killer. Why we like you look back at all these famous guys getting drafted, their big moment, and they're wearing a hat for a team they never played for because technically that team owned the trade, owned that pick, and the trade hasn't fully gone through. Ridiculous. I hate it. The NFL was able to do it. Why can't the NBA?
I mean, the
Rant
NFL
over.
I'll just say one thing. We all know the NFL is the greatest league.
King.
They're always innovating. They're always just figuring things out. They rarely do things that are like super stupid for an extended period of time because they're just like, it's a common sense league where NBA clearly in a lot of ways can't always meet that criteria.
Struggle with that sometimes.
And another interesting thing is that Dirk opens up, right? He opens up this wave of Europeans now being drafted high. It's like, and you know, we see all these, this always happens with like these waves, right? Like an interesting one is at tight end that we saw recently after Kyle Pitts got drafted 4th overall. I think it was 4th overall. And that like didn't end so great. It was like, all right, we probably shouldn't have done that. Because of that, people were scared to draft tight ends high. And then the Raiders get Bowers at like 14 or something, and it's like, oh my God, that was a steal. Bauer should have been a top 5 pick. So the next year, Loveland goes 9,
Warren.
and Warren goes super high. Like they go higher than Bowers went or
Right.
something.
And that's the story of you know, all these leagues is that's a copycat league. So one thing works, right? When Dirk worked out, all of a sudden now like let's all get these European shooters. Luka worked out, like let's Porzingis worked out. Let's like rush into a guy who we don't know as well, but maybe he'll be like that.
Well, the interesting thing though is I believe that it opened up a wave, and we're gonna run through it now. And then I think it kind of didn't work out for a while. The Europeans weren't great, and then it died until Kristaps. He revived it.
Well, there was a point where like
In 2001, Pau Gasol went 3rd overall. So, you know, that obviously worked out. Yao Ming was first overall in 2002.
Right. I mean, famously, Darko Milicic is a miss.
Right. That's a big bust. In 2003, Milicic goes, and that didn't end well. So then, the next year, no one really. 2004, we didn't see any Europeans that high. Also, 2005, no Europeans.
It's still, even after that, it took some time. And
then Bargnani went first overall, and I think that ruined it for a while. Bargnani went first overall in 2006, and everyone was like, you know what? Maybe the Europeans do suck. Maybe there were just a couple anomalies thrown in there.
all of this goes in ebbs and flows, right? So Europeans are in it, and all of a sudden they reach on some Europeans, and then those guys who get reached on are busts. So then they're like, you know what? We don't trust Europeans. The thing about that is that I think that's over with. A couple of reasons. One is, I mean, Europeans are passing Americans right now. I mean, the best players in the world are European, right? Wemby, like the new era.
The new wave is Europeans, which makes sense.
And if you look at MVPs, the last 7 MVPs have been European. Giannis, Jokic, Shea, who's Canadian. Like,
Shea's kind of fake. People are talking about it, but
he's not American is the point. American, the world is catching up to America to the point where the Olympics, it wasn't a given that the USA would win.
I 100% agree. The world is definitely catching up, and we see that the best players in the NBA are these Europeans now, which makes sense because it's a massive sample. Like there's tons of people there, and you're gonna find these just like freaks all over the world. You have millions and millions. I mean, in the U.S. too, obviously, but even more millions outside of the U.S. So it makes sense. I can't, in good faith, count Shea because yeah, he was Canadian, but he was going to the same schools and playing at the same camps, and
Right, that's true.
it's North American basketball is
That's fair. The Americas, you could say that. I think also what's interesting now, I think like a guy like a Dirk or a Jokic. Well, Dirk was known, but guys where these Europeans where like they're unknown and we're not sure about them, I think those days are getting less and less because basketball is becoming more international and there's way more opportunities to scout. Also, Europeans, because of the NIL, they're going to start coming to play college in America. So then you'll know if they're good or not, right? There's a couple of college players right now who are European that you'll hear their names within the next few months who are dominating.
Now, we also have some Europeans in college basketball who were drafted to the NBA,
And they're going back.
but because the NCAA, we were ripping on the NBA. The NBA is the greatest league in the history of the universe if you just put it side by side with the NCAA. The NCAA is such a disaster. If you haven't heard, there's a player, he was drafted 31st overall, I want to say, in the NBA draft, and like 4 or 5 years ago or something, and
Yeah.
they're letting him go back to play in college.
So at least him, he never played.
I don't care. If you were drafted in the NBA, like, how is that not a rule?
Yeah. So
This is the craziest part. I think if Calipari wasn't wrong, John Calipari, the coach of Arkansas, went on a massive rant. He was saying the Americans can't do it. If you go to college, right? Because then you lose your eligibility. If you go to college and you declare for the draft, you can't go back 5 years from now.
right. I'm convinced that a lot of these coaches are doing this to show how broke it is so that it will get fixed. But
No, they're doing it because they want to win.
right, obviously, but it is being shown. I mean, NCAA is a disaster in every sport. In college, you have a coach leaving his team before the playoffs. In college football, before he's leaving his team before the playoffs because he's signing somewhere else and because transfer portal opens too early. So,
Right, and he's pulling all his players. His players now have to decide if they want to keep playing in the playoffs or if they're going to switch. And his staff also. It's
he's like, get on the
insanity.
plane, or it's
It's a calendar.
sports.
Why can't whatever
college sports is a disaster. But you know what? Some people love that, how messy it is. It's so much drama going on in college sports.
No one likes it. I don't believe that anyone likes it. Why would I want to? I mean, there's something to be said that like college has figured some things out well in a sense, right? It's a free market, like it's I think they probably have the players' best interests in mind in a lot of ways more than any other league.
Well, starting to, because now they're giving them money.
Yes, I mean it makes up for the last,
Yeah.
100 years before this. But now it's like if you can go to a low end school, right? You can play in a low end Division 1 program. If you show out there, they might offer you millions and millions of dollars to come play in the SEC.
Yeah.
You can like whatever.
So, but I will say all the reason all those a lot of these problems are because they're still trying to call these kids students. So they have to leave in January because the semester ends, and it's like, come on, let's just all admit that these are professional athletes. They just
Also,
happen to be going to college.
I don't know what that means. They have to leave in January. As I mean, my little sister is in college and she's been on break for the last
No,
6 weeks. She's going back in 2 weeks. What does that mean? These
So-
guys are still playing.
No, but the transfer portal opens because they want to spend their next semester in the college they're going to. So that opens now because that's the in between semesters.
It's a disaster.
It's ridiculous.
Then move the whole calendar up. Well, they have to play their no.
Just admit that these are not college students; they're pro athletes who you are just calling college students so you can get tax-free money. NCAA, right? You're a scam.
The problem, the only issue is that you want to figure out a way to not screw all the other sports.
Right, and that's a lot of the problem with teams changing conferences is that they changed for football, but now basketball is a completely different conference. So it is college sports is a mess. And
Well, you don't have to be in the same conference for both, but
Right.
I hear.
And eventually we will be doing trade rewinds for college because we know that's coming. There'll be trades going.
Trades midseason. I mean, it actually is a crazy thing in college that I have a whole new appreciation for this from playing the college football 26 video game. Very fun game for the record. Sorry, I had to give them a shout out. But if you come into the year and you're like, you know what, I think I'm set at QB, right? Our quarterback room's good. It's looking good. And then you get into the season and your quarterback room's bad. There's nothing you can do. You're screwed now.
Yeah.
If you have a top player and they get injured, you're screwed. You can't just trade for someone else. That's not an option. You can't pick up a player. There's no free agency. It is really interesting the way you build teams. I mean, the flip side of that is that your rosters are way bigger, but
Right, you have 70 guys on your roster.
I think even more. I think 100.
100? Yeah, it's insane.
But still, I mean,
Listen, we'll definitely at one point do an episode on the disasters of college. And by the way, all of it's a disaster because now with the transfer portal, it's the hardest time ever as a high schooler to make it to college because why would you take a 19-year-old when you could get a 22-year-old guy who's played 4 years of college? Why would you take a 19-year-old who hasn't even listed in a college program yet? So it's unless you're a 5-star, all the middle guys, they don't get those scholarships anymore. They gotta go low D1 and then work their way up.
I don't know if that's a permanent issue though, because if you think about it, you should still. I mean, they had a real issue with that during COVID because they gave people extra years of eligibility, and then
Right.
because they had extra years of eligibility, they were still in the league, and then there was less space. Like you were saying, oh, I can get this guy who's been playing 5 years already. Now he has a 6th year of eligibility. This is huge, but now it shouldn't be that there's more people. It just means because
No, but if you're rebuilding your roster and you had 7 guys at basketball team, 7 seniors graduate, would you rather get 7 freshmen who you're gonna have to teach how to be a college athlete and handle academics and do that, or do you just take a senior transfer who scored already 1,000 points at another school?
right. Well, whatever. There's advantages and disadvantages. Then you only get them for 1 year.
Right, but you
as
could do that every year.
or
I think eventually the fix will be great, good for them. We're paying them. You get 1 transfer, and then after that, your next one you sit out a year again
for basketball, you're saying.
for everything. Football too.
Oh, you're saying the player can only transfer once?
1 transfer.
Yeah.
It used to be if you transferred, you sat out a year, so people didn't transfer.
What's also interesting is that there's really way less incentive to go to the draft now. I was just watching an interview with the center.
Why would you be a 3rd round pick if you get $5 million if you stay down?
Yeah, it's the football center for Indiana. And he was saying how he was going to go to the draft, and then one of the coaches called him and they were like, you know what, you snapped a little bit last year. We'd really love for you to come back. We really think you'd be a good center, blah, blah, blah. And also I'm gonna offer you X amount of money. He didn't say how much. And he was like, I'd be stupid not to come back.
Right.
Usually it was the opposite, right? I gotta get to the
You
league.
had to leave for the money.
Right. Let me get to the league as fast as possible. We were just talking about Michael Vick and how he was he only played 2 years in college. And he was
He's got to go get for his family.
right. He went back to his family and he was like, I just can't imagine not going to the NFL right now.
Right.
And whatever. It's obviously a little bit different because he was first overall. He signed he got 15 mil signing bonus, but still, Or should we get back into the
Yeah, I mean, we covered a broad array of topics here. Back to the original trade. I think we're ready for kind of a score. This is one that, you know, is one of the worst trades I've ever seen. It's known as one of the worst trades. And again, like I said, I don't blame the Bucks as much as I blame the NBA at the time. Like, really, in my head, this is more about Don Nelson being open-minded and understanding and just being outside the box and being creative and a visionary. It's way more about him than, the Bucks screwing things up.
I still blame the Bucks.
But at the same time,
I don't care. You know what? It's your job. You're getting paid millions and millions of dollars to create the best team. And you decide to draft a refrigerator 6th overall. You're like, you know what? Why don't I trade a pick? Why don't I give up Dirk? Let me give up like a guy who I'm gonna have to wait on for 2 years. So I can draft someone who's literally described as a refrigerator, 6th overall, and he'll be off my team in 2 years. Like, it's on you at some point.
absolutely. And you are right. And which is why my score, I'm going to give my highest score I've ever given. I'm going to go a 9.6.
I can't believe this is worse than the Celtics? The Celtics Nets?
What did I give the Celtics next? I don't remember.
I don't know. You're telling me it's your highest ever though.
I think it is. I don't think the Celtics, I think this is worse than that.
You think this is a worse trade than the Celtics Nets trade?
Mm.
I don't know how.
Well, it's just so clearly one-sided, one for one. The Celtics next is pretty bad. You know what?
Celtics
You're about to. I was trying to give a score down. Now all of a sudden, you're thinking, you have me second guessing myself. Fine.
Give her a 9.6. I'm just saying.
Fine. Just interesting. You are right. That is a little high. Well, I'll bring it back. Let me get back. Let me get my bearings again. I got a little excited.
I mean, no, this is.
It's definitely in the nines.
Let me help you out here.
I'll go to a 9.2. That's
That's
where I'm
fair.
going to settle at. It's a 9.2.
I think
It's really bad.
it's really bad, and also it's not like the Bucks, I assume, were bad afterwards. Like, it's not like they were making finals.
Right.
Like they had a chance. The Mavericks went on. It's actually kind of reminds me a little bit of the Brett Favre trade, because it was similar in the sense that it wasn't like they gave up so much. All you did was give up one pick, but that one pick ended up being the guy who turned the Mavericks from a team that never made the playoffs in the 90s to a team that always made the playoffs for the next 15 seasons.
And there's also just, to me, there's something about the fact that you picked him. So you picked the guy. He was you owned him and you gave him. It's not, you didn't trade a pick and then they picked him. Even though you agreed before or whatever, you picked him.
Right.
He was a buck. And now you gave him away. Now 21 seasons for another team.
He wore the hat. He put the hat on.
He was wearing your hat in his draft picture.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, that, like I said, it reminds me of Brett Favre. It was a year later, but you had him in your quarterback room and you traded him, and he went on to just win and win and win and win.
Yes. So what are you thinking? Where's your head at for the score?
I don't know. I mean, I'm terrible at this whole scoring thing. So maybe, knowing myself, I should probably give it a 10, because I'm comparing it to Brett Favre. Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. I have, with your new score, oh my God, actually, I'm pulling up our scores now. This is a bad look for you.
Oh no.
Your Net Celtics was a 9.1.
Oh no, I still went too high.
My Net Celtics is the 9.5. Yours is the
Sometimes
9.1.
Sometimes I'm prisoner of the moment. This just felt so bad.
Yeah, it is bad. And like I said, I mean, I also wonder if there's something like so humiliating about a trade like that.
Yeah, and
Like, even more so than the Nets, because with the Nets Celtics, it was like, yeah, it was terrible, but it was a bunch of guys who didn't know what they were doing. The Bucks
Right.
probably, they're like, yeah, we're good at this. We're making the right choice here. We're trading an extra pick to draft this guy who, like, all he's known for is like backing guys down.
well, I'll tell you this, with this trade, in my head, right, there's the good side and the bad side. Right? The good side, Don Nelson, he won the trade, obviously. In my eyes, it's way more greatness on Don Nelson than weakness on the Bucks, because Don Nelson was the one, he had the vision to see, because that is how everyone in the NBA thought at that time. The way they talked about Europeans, so Don Nelson was the one willing to take that leap. And I think just for him, what a move. and really just revolutionized the game, thinking a real like free thinker to think that way when the rest of the league was in a box with their, mentality about European players.
Yeah, and how these things always go, which we've talked a lot about, is when you make these decisions and you make a move like this. I mean, it was ninth overall, so he probably wouldn't have been penalized too hard, but you're staking a lot on it, right? And I assume the other way. I assume the Bucks GM didn't stick around too much longer after this.
I'd love to know what number they had Dirk on their like draft board. Like, right? They traded him. So like I wonder if he's like, oh, he's like a 19th pick or 20, like what did they like see him as?
Right. Well, what did the Bucks have him at?
Right. Because that's always fascinating to me is like because it could have been, by the way, that they never even like thought of taking Dirk with that pick. Like they only took him because the Mavericks wanted him. He might have not even been on their radar.
Right. Or it could be that they had him at the same thing. They were just like, no, we got to get tractor trailer.
We got to get Tractor. He's a win now player.
Yeah, he's gonna bring us to a chip.
Unbelievable. And it's so funny because in today's NBA, if you're like, would you rather a 7-footer who can shoot, dribble, or would you rather who's like 220 who can move? Or do you want a 7-footer who can't move, but he's dominant in the paint? Those guys don't even get drafted anymore.
Yeah.
Those guys are dominant, like Taco Fall, like that kind of player, like a beast in the paint. Like they go undrafted.
It's funny. They said when Taco Fall got drafted, they're like, he's just like 30 years past his time. Like if he was playing 30, 40 years ago, he'd 100% be the first overall pick. What else could you ask for?
Unbelievable.
Guy's 7'6". You can't stop him in the paint. I don't want to, not give a grade, obviously. So I think I'm going to stick at an 8-9. I want to make sure I'm staying consistent with my scale.
It's a good score, I think.
It's bad. It's very bad.
Yeah, it's a bad trade. It's bad.
It's bad.
This is why we do this, to find these ugly trades that give you nightmares.
The nightmares, we've had some fun ones though. We've had some even ones.
That's true.
The LT. It's hard to find even ones though. When you're doing the look back, it can be very hard because it's not interesting to me to see like, all right, two guys who were like mediocre players in the NFL were traded for each other. No one cares about that. We want the big names.
Right. As we go deeper and deeper, we're going to like hunt for some like real win-wins. We'll find some.
Yeah, you'll find some.
But there's something about like just a gross trade that you look back. I mean, this dude was out 2 years later, gone. And Dirk is their franchise player. Like, it's just unbelievable.
And it's so easy for us now. We just get to sit back here. We sit behind the mics.
We would have taken Dirk, obviously.
I had Dirk first on my board. I don't know about you. No shot.
Yeah.
1998, yeah.
A guy who 7 feet could shoot?
Why would I not want that?
Yeah, it sounds like the dream.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
All right. Well, I think that about covers it. A really interesting trade.
That was a good one. That was a fun one. I had no idea. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
it was traded.
The most interesting is just to see like the mentality back then versus now.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, because I got mixed feedback on Brett Favre, people knowing, not knowing he was traded. Like, we're younger. We're born in 2000 era. So, like, I don't know. I'm curious to see.
Dirk was
Let me
traded.
know.
Right, I didn't know this.
Did you know that Dirk was traded?
Yeah. Write in the comments. Let us know if you knew Dirk was traded.
I'm gonna put a poll in there. Might get like 7 votes. Yeah, lucky.
Yes.
Did you know
for us
that Dirk was drafted by the Bucks? Thank you for listening to The Trade Rewind. You can find us on social media at The Trade Rewind on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you enjoy listening to the show, the best thing you can do for us is to leave us a 5-star on Spotify and share the episode.